Senator Cornyn, I'd like to make a brief statement, not counting against my time at the outset. I just want to express agreement with what Senator Cornyn said, and while I'm certainly sympathetic to the need to get through nominees, it is different than establishing that we need to have all 5 of these nominees in a single panel in a single hearing. If we need to have more hearings, fine. If we need to have more panels of the same hearing, that's fine too. This is a difficult spot to cover. This many nominees of this much significant in one hearing can be tough. Thank you for letting me address that. Mr. Chapman, I'd like to start with you. I believe Senator Cornyn referred briefly to a statement that I independently found concerning, a statement that you had posted on Reddit back in 2019. When you said, quote, "While at ATF, I conducted studies involving people who failed background checks to determine how many later committed crimes with a gun. Many did. This is a perfect opportunity to arrest people before committing crimes rather than responding after the fact," close quote. I find this statement very troubling, especially troubling for someone who's been nominated to serve as the ATF director, because even setting aside for a minute the Second Amendment, even before you get to the Second Amendment, this violates our most fundamental rules of due process, talking about a desire to arrest people before committing crimes rather than after the fact. It's not how our criminal justice system works. And if that's how you view people, that is concerning to me. Now, this is compounded by other comments you've made that, to me, reflect a certain degree of disdain toward gun owners, and in particular, new gun owners. On April 3rd of 2020, just over a year ago, you gave an interview with Cheddar News, and you were talking about increases in gun sales, especially first-time gun owners who had decided to purchase a gun for the first time during the pandemic. In the interview, you openly mocked first-time gun owners, saying that they were, quote, "more like Tiger King," and then advising them in quite a mockery to hide their gun, quote, "behind the cans of tuna and beef jerky they have stored in a cabinet, and only bring that out if the zombies start to appear," close quote. When I first saw this, I watched the clip and I read the clip several times, hoping that I was missing context, hoping that there was something else there that would make this less troubling. It concerns me that you, as the nominee to be the director of the ATF, would have such a flippant and, if I may say so, utterly condescending attitude toward first-time gun owners in this country. I say this as a former federal prosecutor, one who worked with ATF agents and agents from many other agencies. This is a troubling, flippant attitude for somebody who's going to head this agency. Now, you may find it interesting to learn that a survey of federal firearms licensees conducted by the National Shooting Sports Foundation shows that retailers supported the highest average percent increase in sales to Black Americans during the first half of 2020, with large increases also to women and to Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans as well. So why would you choose to insult so many of your fellow Americans with a statement like this, based on the fact that they purchased a gun?
Senator, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address both of these comments that I believe were misunderstood and taken out of context. I'll start with the first. When I was talking about the prosecution of people who had lied and tried to buy a gun, clearly those people who lie and try have committed a serious federal felony. And what I suggested is, if we did research, we could determine which of those people were most likely to later commit some violent crime. And I do believe it would be ATF's mission, that of prosecutors, to prosecute those people who committed a serious federal felony before, striking again and killing someone. With respect to the other quote, I'll just say briefly.
So are you saying that what you in fact meant was before committing other crimes and after committing a predicate crime? Is that what you're telling me that you meant when you said this is a perfect opportunity to arrest people before committing crimes rather than responding after the fact? Is that what you meant?
Senator, thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to clarify. What I said was that I think that in certain circumstances, it is absolutely the mission of ATF to arrest people for lying on a federal firearms form, a 5-year felony.
Right, because that's a crime. That is a crime.
And it's the one I was speaking about in the quote that you were saying, sir.
Okay, but you said before committing crimes.
Before committing an additional violent crime, which is something I was seeing at ATF, that people would lie and try and then go through other means, acquire a gun, and hurt someone.
Okay, so that statement was sort of in invisible brackets? Is that what you mean? Or is that just what you're saying that you meant?
At the time, I did my best to communicate, and clearly, as exampled here, I fell short. I will try to do better.
Okay, how about the other statement?
With regards to the comments that I made on Cheddar, that was a lengthy interview. What I was trying to use is self-depreciating humor. The person who had a gun storm behind his tuna and beef jerky was me. And I was saying that all of us were acting in new ways as a response to COVID. And I thought that people should be very clear that when they bring a gun in their home, they need to be properly trained. So again, we have oftentimes the ability to talk to the media. Sometimes that's taken out of context, and I'm sorry for any confusion I made when I was trying to point out the fact that sometimes bringing a gun into your home if you're untrained is a particularly dangerous thing to do.
It does concern me that these statements that you say are taken out of context or misunderstood are not themselves out of context. When you view them in context against other statements you've made, statements, including statements that you made while you were representing as a lobbyist Americans for a Responsible Solution. You were talking about silencers, about sound suppressors used on firearms. You said, you know what protects your hearing better than a silencer? Earplugs. And you went on to say that making it easier for people to purchase silencers would make it easier for active shooters to inflict serious harm on our communities without being protected by trained law enforcement professionals. Now, the Washington Post, hardly a bastion of conservative right-wing nutcase journalism, gave that 3 Pinocchios. You were even more acerbic. You were even more aggressive, and I believe even more reckless when you gave a similar comment to the Salt Lake Tribune, my hometown paper, in response to legislation I had filed dealing with sound suppressors for firearms, recognizing that there are legitimate medical reasons why someone might want to protect their hearing using a combination of earplugs and sound suppressors. You said, quote, "The only people that benefit from this bill are gun lobbyists and criminals who want easier access to deadly weapons. That's why this irresponsible legislation couldn't get passed when Republicans had complete control of Congress. Instead of making it easier for firearms that could be used in ambushes and other attacks to enter our streets, Congress should focus on making the job of police officers who are trained to serve and protect the communities and their families safer." You're saying that the only people who could benefit from them are gun lobbyists and criminals who want to kill people. Is that statement also taken out of context? If so, what was the additional context? And how does this reflect the careful, measured judgment of one who would be in charge of enforcing our nation's gun laws?
Senator, thank you for the question about silencers, which have been regulated under the National Firearms Act since the 1930s. The effort to take the silencer out of that regulatory regime that has prevented silencers by more frequently being used in criminals, as an advocate, I thought that that was the wrong approach.
Yes, you made that quite clear, but that's not what I'm complaining about. What I'm complaining about is that you said the only people who could support this are gun lobbyists and people who want to engage in illegal shootings, people who want to engage in mass shootings or something like that. Do you stand by that statement?
Senator, I was trying to contrast the fact that silencers are legal. You purchase them through the National Firearms Act. The people who want them unregulated are those that want to have
Look,
easier access.
you're not going to spit downwind and then tell us it's just raining. I mean, I'm sorry, there's no reasonable reading of this statement that can be interpreted this way. The only people that benefit from this bill are gun lobbyists and criminals who want easier access to deadly weapons. Is it not also true that some people might want to protect their hearing while shooting?
Senator, as I said before, it's my belief that those who want to buy silencers to protect their hearing, there's a method to do that. There are many companies that sell National Firearms Act weapons, and there's a process to do that.
Yep.
What I was addressing was making it easier for criminals to use silencers, a threat that our nation has really avoided because of a strong law passed in 1930.
Yeah. All right. Look, I get it. My time's expired. That's not what you said. That's not what you said at all. Nor is that the impact that this bill would have. The fact is that most people don't get sound suppressors because of the regulatorily inexpensive, time-consuming, burdensome process that is imposed by this law. And I think this is very concerning for someone who's had a series of inflammatory statements. It's very concerning that we're considering confirming you to be our lead law enforcement officer for our gun laws. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Polite, I assume you'll agree that it's wrong to pursue a criminal case for political purposes.
Certainly, Senator. That is correct.
Is it also wrong to duck a case for political purposes?